All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we're going to be diving into the markets. We're going to be diving into what is the biggest narrative over the next couple of weeks. We're already see some tokens having some pretty large movements. We'll talk about the biggest narrative across Web3. Obviously, ordinals are a different animal at this moment in time. We might have some coverage on that for you coming up as well, but with the Apple VR headset launch right around the corner, the estimated date being June 5th, the belief around the space, and we're seeing it honestly if we filter the watch list over the 7 days with stuff like Render up 40% this week, Wilder World up 30% this week. We're seeing the metaverse narrative creep back up to the top. And if you've been watching the shows, I had talked that metaverse was kind of being slept on. We hadn't seen the metaverse tokens or the metaverse narrative actually be in the limelight for quite a while. So we're going to talk about, I think, 5 tokens in this episode that I think either are already running, but I think also still have tons of upside given the market cap and given the valuation of these tokens at this moment in time. We'll also talk about some of the biggest news across Web3 gaming. Let's dive into it. Like the video down below and subscribe for more every single day here on In the Game and on Crypto Banter as well. Shout out to all of our sponsors down below. Vulcan Forge, one of the leading Web3 gaming studios, Metaverse as a service, and with their blockchain, the Elysium blockchain. I know they have some massive news right around the corner. Check out Vulcan Forge down below. Synverse, what truly looks to be the Grand Theft Auto of the Metaverse. You can get involved with their business licenses down below as well. NordVPN, always use a VPN and navigate securely throughout crypto. Don't disclose your IP address. Last but not least, Bybit for all of your trading needs, long, short, etc. Utilize Bybit. Sign up for an account down below if you don't have one already. Now, let's dive into it. We've had a major week of news coming out, not just Apple VR, which we will talk about here in just a second, but Web3 gaming is taking an uptick. I say it all the time that Web3 gaming, crypto gaming is going to end up being one of the most adopted sectors. It's going to onboard users into Web3 over the next couple of years. And we just seen an OG in the space. Whatever you think about them today, doesn't matter, because Axie Infinity, they pushed the borders, they got Web3 gaming on the map, and they showed what's possible with asset ownership. And then just yesterday, Origins passed the review with Apple. Apple's a big narrative behind this show, obviously. But Origins has passed a review with Apple and is now available on the App Store. Now, this is massive. Like I said, whatever you think about Axie, this is a landmark because of the fact that this is the first time that Apple has agreed to make an externally purchased NFT usable on the App Store. So what this means is they usually take a percentage of the money that's being traded inside the games from NFTs to be able to be listed on the Apple App Store. This is absolutely massive. And yes, I see in the comments, not in the EU. It's in select country at this moment in time. I believe it'll end up rolling out on the App Store across, worldwide at some point. This is only in certain regions at this moment in time, as it says soft launching in selected countries here on this image. I'll blow that up as it says here on the bottom. But this is major. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Axie fan. I don't think that Axie's the end-all be-all, but I do love everything that 𝗕𝗀 and the team have continued to push forward in their ecosystem. And getting listed on the Apple App Store is definitely a big deal as far as our industry goes, and they're not the only ones, right? Cross the Ages, a trading card game that's honestly gotten great sentiment over the time. And I remember we ran a giveaway for some of their NFTs a while back, and that did really well. And Cross the Ages just the other day was ranked #1 on the App Store in France for strategy games. And this was over stuff like Clash Royale and Clash of Clans. This was absolutely massive. So 2 big App Store wins this week as we had a Web3 game topping the charts on the France Apple App Store. And we see Axie Infinity being listed on the Apple App Store. So some major adoption going on across the space. And this is what we are here for. We are here for that adoption. And we're going to be guiding you through it the whole step of the way, whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, a decade from now, where this becomes mainstream. We're going to have been here the entire time, holding your hand through it all with all the news and all the updates and the projects that we're looking at. And speaking of projects, another massive new... we preach, Becker preaches, Elio preaches, all the Web3 gaming creators preach. There's not an industry in crypto that has the adoption potential that this does. But not only that, the amount of businesses, OG businesses that are building inside of crypto and Web3 gaming, as we see the creators of Clash of Clans. This is from Supercell, Tencent, etc. This is going to be massive. Army of Tactics, a Web3 mobile game from the creators of Clash of Clans. This right here has massive potential. It's already getting tons of sentiment on crypto Twitter and amongst the Web3 gaming world because of the amount of development experience that this team does have. This is one to definitely keep your eye on. Army of Tactics. You can follow them at AO Tactics on Twitter. And they also have the AOF verse here, which is unleashing the metaverse gaming revolution built by the founding members of Supercell. Be the first to play Army of Tactics. So I will definitely be keeping my eye on this, as some OG mobile game builders are now seeing the potential, right? Think about the microtransactions inside of these games and the amount of money that these games make, but you don't own those assets truly inside of those mobile games. This right here is massive. And I agree with what Alan's saying down in the chat box. This is big for mobile gaming. Web3 games haven't really been mobile friendly too much. And we talk about it all the time. One of the biggest, everyone wants to build the next AAA, the next Call of Duty. Everyone wants to compete with Grand Theft Auto and this and that. Well, unfortunately, it's going to take years to do that. It's going to take billions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of developers to be able to compete with those games. But the mobile market is wide open and it's ripe for disruption, in my opinion. You know, stuff like WAGMI Games, Army of Tactics. I think that Heroes of Mavia has massive potential, etc. And now we're seeing Axie on the App Store. We're seeing Cross the Ages on the App Store. It's happening right in front of us. And I think that, you know, we are definitely in front of one of the biggest waves in all of Web3. And I'm excited, really excited for the developments as far as mobile gaming this week. Now, let's get to the main topic of the show. Apple VR. Going from the Apple App Store and mobile gaming over to Apple VR, because Apple VR headset is rumored to potentially be launching on June 5th. And its keynote starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, the classic time window for Apple's big tech launches. This right here is the biggest thing that a metaverse investor, you know, metaverse Web3 gaming investor should be looking ahead to over the next couple of weeks. And we know what happened last time, right? We know the metaverse tokens, whenever Meta went from Facebook to Meta, we saw what that did to the metaverse. We saw the tokens like Sandbox, like Decentraland, you know, all these big metaverse projects got major liquidity and major pumps whenever that did happen. And Cointelegraph writes, the new headset from Apple could put a rocket under metaverse tokens. Now, is it going to be the magnitude of Meta? I doubt it, right? The Meta announcement, if we go look at the Sandbox chart, where do you think that was at, right? It was right here. That was the Meta announcement, and it took it all the way up, I believe, $7+. Yeah, it did, $7+, right? It's not going to be as aggressive this time. This was something that was a one-of-a-kind metaverse pump, in my opinion. But what I will say is, imagine this scenario. Apple VR launches. They announce, you know, the headset, June 5th, tech launch. But the metaverse experiences that we all are looking forward to, right? I'm not going to start naming names. We'll go over some tokens that are more metaverse centric here in just a second. And guys, keep in mind, today's tokens are metaverses. These are metaverse projects that I'm going to talk about that I think have massive potential long-term and throughout this narrative leading up to the Apple VR. I think that it's not going to be as aggressive because that was the first time the metaverse hit the mainstream. And I agree. Just read the instructions. I agree. Apple is bigger news. Yes, I fully agree with you. But with Facebook changing their name to Meta and going full-blown metaverse at that time period, it just set the tone for what the metaverse could be. And then we had these big overvaluations and metaverse tokens. So we saw what that did. I think as aggressive would be kind of, I don't see it. I don't see it being as aggressive this time with the Apple VR. But imagine your favorite metaverse projects announce that they're going to have an experience playable on the Apple VR headset. I think that will happen. I actually 100% would guarantee that there will be some Web3 metaverse projects on June 5th that are going to come out and say, look, we are launching this experience or this part of our game on the Apple VR headset, on the Apple VR store, or whatever that is going to run through. So that is kind of what I'm looking at as the real kicker, right? We're going to have big speculation leading up to the 5th. And if you look at the 7 days, it's already happening with stuff like High Street Render, Wilder World, etc. But I think that a lot of these have a lot of room to go. And I also think that we're going to see some integrations on the Apple VR headset that are going to be officially on like the Apple VR store, for example. And if you look at the market cap of the metaverse at the moment in time, 13.8 billion, there's literal full-blown single tokens out there worth more than 13 billion. If I'm not mistaken, give me a second here and let me confirm. Dogecoin is worth 10 billion. So the entirety of the metaverse is worth only 3 billion more than Dogecoin. We all know that is complete BS valuations, and the potential here for the metaverse, given Apple VR launch in 3 weeks, is massive. So what are the tokens that I think could get liquidity during this time period and that are potentials to be involved in some sort of an Apple announcement, right? Because you know, this is a catalyst for the metaverse, and maybe some of these experiences could announce on June 5th that they have an experience launching on the Apple VR store. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Sandbox. So I'll go back to the Sandbox. This is, it's up 6% this week. Kind of nothing, in my opinion. And I think that it's the very first metaverse that people think of. It's the first one that a big business wants to go partner in or build an experience in. We've seen it with like Atari, The Walking Dead, all these fashion brands that go into the Sandbox, etc. I really think that Sandbox is probably going to catch a big narrative, a chunk of the narrative here with the metaverse announcement, with the Apple VR announcement. And I also think Sandbox is potentially one that has the power behind it to be able to partner up with an Apple VR and have an experience on Apple VR. So I would look out for the Sandbox. I'm not a huge fan of the Sandbox, but I think that this narrative, if the metaverse goes, Sandbox goes. And that's the same thing with Decentraland. If you watch the shows, you know I am really not a big fan of the Decentraland ecosystem, the experience. I actually think it's quite crap. And it could be a lot better, right? But currently the valuation of Decentraland's right around $1 billion. It's pretty undervaluated as far as what they're actually doing. You know, Decentraland is the second metaverse in line behind the Sandbox as far as the mainstream goes. So if the metaverse goes, Decentraland's going to as well. It's up 10% this week, but still under $1 billion market cap itself. I think that Mana definitely has some legs in this metaverse run, and it's one I would definitely keep an eye on as well. They're looking at the VR experience. They want to be on these headsets, and I think that Apple VR does fit Mana even maybe more than Sandbox. That's speculation completely, but I think that Decentraland, you need to keep your eyes on. I agree. It's old tech. It is old tech. And so we're seeing some comments here. Sandbox, Mana, IMX, and Engine. I don't think Engine really fits into this narrative too much. And I think IMX is more gaming. I'm not really talking about gaming tokens today. These are mainly metaverse plays. One of them is gaming, but they have a metaverse leg to it that I think is really important to point out. The next one, and we're seeing this one play out right now. So don't be chasing this. This one's already gotten away at this moment in time. But we have been telling you over the last few shows that Render was at a pretty good accumulation level, still under $1 billion market cap. It's up 39% this week. So I wouldn't go chasing that pump necessarily. But if you were accumulating back here, that would be a massive win at this moment in time. But I think that Render is a pinnacle token, not as a metaverse, but as a metaverse render, no pun intended, a metaverse rendering, metaverse computing play underneath the metaverse. This is more metaverse infrastructure. If there's one project that you want to back, if you want to get behind metaverse infrastructure, it's Render. Like I said, wait for this to cool off. I mean, if we look at the monthly chart, we're technically still below the 1 month highs. So that's something positive here. But at the same time, it has run quite a bit during this last week, and more so even in the last, like 2-3 days here. If I was to shrink that timeline, let's just, I mean, if we were to shrink the timeline, we're seeing a major move up here just over the last few days. So definitely don't go chasing this. But if you see a retrace or you want to get just a DCA position into something that is a metaverse infrastructure, Render is definitely that play. Now let's get into the stuff that I think is super explosive. Super explosive. So Vulcan Forge, we talk about all the time, right? It is a gaming token. This is, we got people saying Render will double. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily. I think that Render has tons of upside. For example, Render will allow hologram tech to pop like VR will. Watch Render's Solana breakpoint. Render is my biggest regret having not bought more. Render's quality. And it's the pure metaverse infrastructure play when it comes to tokens across the space. Vulcan Forge. We talk about Vulcan Forge a lot. Up 10% over the last 7 days. It's seeing a nice little bump here in price. And I think that people underestimate Vulcanverse is a metaverse in its truest form. And with Metascapes, the build your own metaverse as a service play, I think that fits heavily into this Apple VR narrative. And honestly, they're hinting at it. Look at what they're tweeting with Apple releasing their VR headset soon, and Vulcanverse, which is the metaverse that I just mentioned underneath the Vulcan Forge banner, the most complete metaverse in the blockchain space. You'd think Vulcan would have something up its sleeve. So they're basically hinting that with the VR, with the Apple VR announcement, that they have something up their sleeve. And I wouldn't bet against Jamie Thompson and the team and the backers over at Vulcan Forge. Anthony Scaramucci, one of their lead backers, is very well connected. And I think that it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see them somehow integrating maybe Vulcanverse, maybe Metascapes. I could really see Vulcan Forged playing into that June 5th announcement. And they're literally throwing it in your face right now. They're basically saying this is possible, this could happen. So definitely watch out for that. And Vulcan Forge, I've always said between $3 and $3.30, $3.20, those are really good accumulation ranges. I think even right now, under a $90 million market cap, super undervaluated for Vulcan Forge. My bags are full. Alan's bags are full. I absolutely agree. The only thing with Vulcan Forge is I always wish I had more, in my bags. And it's a consistent DCA for me whenever it's between $3 and $3.30. Really good buy ranges, really good valuation to be able to take a stab at for DCAs. And imagine if they're integrated on the Apple VR store, this market cap is going to fly, which will obviously cause the price to fly. Now, last two, these have begun their runs, but they are much lower market caps, which gives me the massive conviction that these tokens are going to continue to run, especially because this right here is underneath the Asian narrative, big time China, Asia pump narrative. for High Street, which is like a retail metaverse. This is up 20% over the 7 days, but still at a $62 million market cap. Great backers. This is underneath the Animoca Brands banner, for example. I'm really looking at High Street to continue this leg up. I think that this market cap will actually inch towards 100 million during this metaverse pump. If you can follow them on High Street World, if you want to learn more, reimagining retail in the metaverse. I really think that this market cap right here will get closer to 100 million here in the short term during this metaverse narrative. I see this continuing, and I don't really see it slowing down. So I love High Street, and I do have a solid bag of High Street in my portfolio. And last but certainly not least, Wilder World. So Wilder World is also moving over the last 7 days. If you've been watching the shows, you know this is my #1 metaverse play in the entire Web3 crypto industry. What they're building, bar none, it craps on everything else in the space as far as metaverse, in my opinion. You look at the world, the open world, it's called 𝗬𝗎𝗎. There's a racing element. There's the open world RPG style gameplay that you're seeing here. And this is an immersive world that people would want to hop into. Frank and the team over at Wilder World, kind of just like Vulcan, they're just continuously building, continuously innovating. And out of these, I think with the market cap, let's just look at the market cap. The market cap at $80 million. I really think, once again, this is going to flip $100 million market cap in the short term, no doubt about it. And even though they're running right now, guys, these are underneath the prices on the 1 month chart. We started here at 39 cents. This is only just beginning with these metaverse projects leading up to the Apple VR announcement. Even High Street is well below its 1 month highs. And this is bullish for me. We have a long way to go as far as this metaverse pump leading up to June 5th. Wilder World token, the ticker of Wilder World is just WILD, WILD. If I have to put these in a conviction ranking, I would say Vulcan Forged, Wilder World, High Street. Well, actually, let me restart that. Render, Vulcan Forged, Wilder World, High Street, Sandbox, Decentraland. That would be my metaverse rank on investments. Strongest in my opinion, actually being Render, but Render's ran quite a bit and it's a higher market cap. It's lower upside. So as far as upside potential, I think it would go Vulcan Forged, Wilder World, High Street, Render, Sandbox, Decentraland, in that order. So that would be my order of upside on these tokens. And I truly, truly think Vulcan Forge, Wilder World, and High Street, we haven't seen this pump play out for them. And at their market cap valuations and how far they're down, even over their 1 month highs, I'm really, really eyeing up those three in particular. Vulcan Forged, High Street, and Wilder World to just continue this pump leading up to June 5th. And I wouldn't be surprised, guys. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest to see some of these officially launch on Apple VR. I think Vulcan's hinting at it right here. And I think some of these projects have the backing and the team and the track record to do so, like Sandbox, Decentraland, Vulcan Forge with Anthony Scaramucci and the connections that he has. I wouldn't be surprised, right? But I just think as far as the metaverse narrative, that these last three specifically, Vulcan Forge, High Street, and Wilder World, have very, very nice upside. Let's take a couple of chat questions before we get out of here. If you don't know, we're out at Miami this week. Bitcoin, I live here, but the whole team, the entire Banter fam, all the hosts, me, Rand, Sheldon, Kyle, Miles, we're all out here. And it's awesome to meet some people around the booth. And the open public day starts tomorrow. So that will, that'll be awesome to meet more of the Banter fam that's out in Miami. WOSDR, yeah, very, very bullish on WOSDR. I think that low cap gem in its fullest. And I actually got an idea. Today. Kyle gave me some inspiration. Under a 6 million market cap. Wow. WOSDR is definitely taking a pretty big dip here. And wow, yeah, I've never seen the market cap that low. So good accumulation prices right now. Are they staying in my house? No. I don't have a big enough house for that, guys. Come on now. It's Miami. It's Miami. You know, they're upcharging you here. Let's see. Vulcan, yes. Gala, no. RIP. Yeah. Vulcan Forge, I have conviction over Gala at this moment in time. Views on Gala, a lot has changed. I will say I don't like what they're pushing to their community. If you don't care that your community, if you don't care about your community's ROI, then stop launching, then take the token off the market, stop launching NFTs that are overpriced, and stop selling nodes that promise rewards, for Christ's sakes. They just cut off a content creator off their deal because he was talking about the tokens. I'm bearish on the business ethics and practices that Gala is doing at this moment in time. If you're going to have a token, you're going to have nodes, and you're going to sell drastically overpriced NFTs, you owe it to your community to try to give them back and make them whole. That's the whole ethos of it. And then they're going to sell you all this bullshit and then act like, oh, it doesn't matter what you paid for it. It's BS. Then go build a Web2 game. Like, you're literally using your community to raise money, and then you're saying it doesn't matter. Like, get out of here. That's my honest views. Shout out to On-Chain Gaming. He apparently had his deal cut with Gala. He was a partner for Gala. They cut his deal because he was bullish on a token. Then go back to Web 2, like Gala. Like, that's just bullshit. I'm sorry that I had to get my rant out there, because like they're literally now saying their creators can't talk about tokens. Then stop putting them in the game. If it's a part of the game, then I'm going to talk about it. Like, point blank, period. All right, guys. Ultra, I love Ultra. I think in the next bull run, it's going to do really well. Bearish in the short term because they just launched, and usually product launches in crypto don't equate upward price. Around 20 cents, though, really good accumulation levels. Heart On-Chain Gaming. Yeah, he's been a great creator in the Web3 gaming space for a long time. And yeah, it's just BS to see these studios and projects that are trying to sell you everything under the sun and then say it doesn't matter. Ridiculous. Thoughts on 𝗔𝗕𝗆? It looks good. You know, it looks really solid, actually. I've looked into it recently, and yeah, I'm pretty impressed with what they're building. Myria, bearish in the short term. Reason being is the nodes are just pushing out tokens to investors every single day. That's not really based off network activity. It's just a reward system. People are going to keep selling. The price is probably going to keep going down in the short term, and it's really hard to make a bull case for something that so many tokens are hitting every single day and most likely being sold. You look at the month, you look at the all chart, it's not really promising. 61% down from the all-time high, which was just the very beginning of launch. So yeah, bearish short term on Myria. ApeCoin, yeah, other side's good and all, but I don't really see ApeCoin factoring into a metaverse pump. I'm going to be honest. I don't really know what could be a bull catalyst for Ape other than a bull run. I'm a big fan of Yuga. I'm a big fan of the other side metaverse, but as far as ApeCoin, it feels like it's going to need a whole lot to send that on a bull trend. Superverse, I'm really bullish. And if you have the option, I will say it, like, if you have the option to bet on or bet against Elio, I would bet on the guy personally. Superverse or High Street? Short-term high upside play would be High Street. Long-term safer bet would be Superverse, personally. How about ILV? Love what they're doing. Top-tier team, top-tier game. Worried about the emissions from staking, etc. Some unlocks and that kind of stuff for the short term. But come next bull run and come over the next couple of months, we're probably going to see a really good opening to get a long-term position on Illuvium, in my opinion. 𝗖𝗍𝗆cie, I'm bullish on the Senate token, the governance token. They're using it in some really cool ways. It's not as inflationary, and I think it has a good amount of upside given the market cap. All right, guys, I'm going to hop out of here. 30 minutes, went a little over what I was thinking, but I think we got some good value. I spilt my raw opinion there at the end on what Gal is doing and kind of just shunning out the people who are talking about their tokens and investments. It's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But more so, I gave you the rankings of conviction on these metaverse tokens that I really am tuned into and am going to be watching and heavily investing in over the next couple of months. So guys, like the video down below, subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the metaverse narrative leading up to Apple VR. What are your favorite metaverse plays? Let me know down below, and I will see you guys on the next In the Game. As always, play well, my friends.